After 2 years of negotiations, the United States has achieved something that decades of animosity has not.
Historic deal with Iran.
The nuclear agreement with Iran is a huge deal and is being hotly debated in Washington and around the world. But there's still a major unanswered question. How does this affect young people both at home and abroad? I went to DC to find out. I sat down with Ben Rhodes, Deputy National Security Advisor for Strategic Communications and one of the top foreign policy advisors in the Obama administration, to answer the questions we've been hearing about the Iran nuclear deal and to break down what it really means.
Bottom line is very strict constraints on their nuclear program for 10 years, constraints for 15 years on their ability to have the stockpile of this material in their country. And then there's an inspections regime that allows us to look at their entire nuclear supply chain.
I would love to sort of hear what you would say to what this represents for 20-something in Iran in the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, it holds out greater hope for the 20-something in Iran because Iran will be receiving relief from the nuclear-related sanctions that they've been under, which has crippled their economy. The question that many people ask is, do you think that this is going to change Iran? Is Iran going to evolve in a more moderate direction?
Yep.
We don't know. Even if they fully comply with this deal, they are still a sponsor of terrorist activity in the region. They still threaten many of our friends and allies, including Israel.
The world is a much more dangerous place today than it was yesterday.
What am I supposed to make of this as a 20-something living in Israel?
I think what we would say to the young person in Israel is that all of those threats would be much, much, much worse if Iran had a nuclear weapon.
We got a great comment from one of our Facebook commenters, Gayati Singh, and she asks, does this signal a dramatic shift in the Middle East? How is this going to affect sort of the geopolitical balance in the broader Middle East region?
Well, I think what needs to happen in the region is there needs to be an ability to address the underlying political dynamics that are informing these conflicts. And if there's any way that we can work to try to reduce those sectarian tensions, including between majority Sunni states like Saudi Arabia and Iran, that would, I think, reduce the temperature in the region. The one immediate question is ISIL, because that's the only thing everybody in the region agrees with. But we'll have to see how that evolves. That's not a part of this deal.
We did get one interesting question on Twitter. Maggie Lenz asks, will this deal survive if a Republican wins the White House in 2016?
Here's what I'd say to Maggie. Before that person takes office, Iran will remove 2/3 of their centrifuges. They will ship out and get rid of 98% of their stockpile. They will convert that reactor so that it can produce weapons-grade plutonium. So that's the dynamic that will be in place when the new person takes office. The notion that they would immediately want to essentially precipitate a crisis by pulling out of this deal, I think would be very difficult because you would lose all that. The Iranians would say, okay, we're putting the centrifuges back in. We're going to start reacquiring the stockpile. Someone could do that, but it wouldn't be a very good decision.
Any legitimate concerns that you think are, worth recognizing and fleshing out?
Well, I think the most legitimate concern is less about the deal and it's more about the decision to do the deal in the first place, which is the one about they'll get access to a lot more revenue. And why would we allow state-sponsored terrorism to get more revenue? They will have more money. There's no question about it. But look, the fundamental decision here is what's more dangerous? Iran not being checked in terms of producing a nuclear weapon, or Iran getting sanctions relief?
Lots of questions on the president's foreign policy legacy coming out of an issue like this. Will there be more foreign policy priorities that you'll be working on before the end of the term?
At the end of the year, we have perhaps the most important international negotiation, which is the climate change agreement. So in Paris in December, all the nations of the world will come together to try to reach an agreement to combat climate change. If we can get the world together and for the first time have not just developed countries, but countries like China and India and others invested in an international climate framework, that would be a huge piece of business and one that is obviously relevant to young people more than anybody else because they're going to be dealing with the effects of climate change.
Make no mistake, the foreign policy decisions of the Obama administration will impact the lives of young Americans and people around the world for years. The question for the next president, whether Democratic or Republican, will be how he or she grapples with the reality that Obama leaves behind on Iran, the Middle East, climate change, and a host of other foreign policy issues. The nuclear deal with Iran is just the beginning.